Will Mike Johnson hurt Republican chances in 2024? Republicans have recently elected a new House Speaker, Mike Johnson. He has some quite extreme far-right views. Even though the rule for this sub is impartial posts, I think based on the polling on these issues, Mike Johnson's beliefs can be said to be far-right without much bias. He wrote about how gay sex should be criminalized, as well as gay marriage and how gay families shouldn't exist. His wife, like religious fundamentalists do, likens being gay to incest and bestiality. He supports a national abortion ban and no exceptions abortion bans. He thinks the earth is less than 10,000 years old. He participated in efforts to overthrow the election, and believes in serious cuts to Social Security and Medicare. He has also openly insulted democracy and the democratic process in the past, even before trying to overturn the election. He is out of step with most Americans, 70 of whom, according to Pew Research, support gay marriage. And the majority of people don't think being gay is evil. Most people are generally not in support of abortion bans, with all abortion bans being put up for a vote being struck down. Even in red states like Kansas, most people, 61 according to Pew Research, believe in evolution, and likely don't support huge cuts to social support programs. My question is, since the polling on these issues shows that most people are not in line with some of these extreme views, will Mike Johnson's speakership hurt Republican chances for re-election in 2024? Specifically in the House of Representatives, but maybe also in other elections? Or do you think most voters don't care enough about who is elected in the House for his election to make a difference? Do you think someone with such extreme views being in the third most powerful position in the country will help significantly drive voter turnout against Republicans? Or are most voters' memories not that long, and this won't play a big role in the 2024 election? Will his election change much in 2024? I think they are more likely to have an impact on the elections in Ohio and Virginia next week, where voters will be voting on abortion issues. His ascendancy to speaker puts the issue in front of informed voters' minds at the moment. A year from now, it'll just be all Trump all the time. And that'll just come down to turnout due to competing levels of enthusiasm. I didn't see anyone else mention this, so I'll throw it in. He's the most poorly vetted speaker in modern history. He's rabidly anti-gay, and it's far too common that rabid Republicans end up being merely closeted about the things they claim to hate. There are already rumors brewing. It wouldn't surprise me if something breaks at the worst possible time for Republicans, like during the budget negotiations starting any day now, or in the summer, right after the convention, or, hell, in mid-October of next year. I'm as sure whoever has the information will pick their moment to do maximum damage as that the information does exist. The log cabin Republicans still exist and vote conservative despite being kicked out of almost every conservative event for being gay. So yes, but I don't think it'll cost them any Republican votes. I doubt that it matters. Americans tend to focus on the presidential candidate. The vast majority of voters, including so-called independents, have a party preference. Most Democratic voters didn't like guys like Johnson before and still don't. Most Republican voters will either share his positions or else can tolerate them. Net, it won't mean much. I think his beliefs will hurt the GOP, but not directly. People with those kinds of beliefs tend to be inflexible, and he's now in a position that will require flexibility to succeed. So, I expect some voters to be a little more fed up with the GOP when Johnson inevitably can't compromise with the Senate and White House and leads the government into a shutdown. It's never been about national polling. Most states are gerrymandered to shit and most people vote R or D without really digging into the issues too much. That's why people overwhelmingly want things like sensible gun control laws and term limits for Congress, and the people in power will never make those laws. It's not really about what the people want. It's about what the people in power get paid to want. God, I hate being so negative about this, but it just feels so hopeless sometimes. No, I don't feel that most Americans can name the Speaker of the House, much less be influenced by the choice of the Speaker enough to change their vote. Doubt it. Current GOP votes that I know have all this already baked in. Johnson is probably viewed by these folks as a moderate. People find it difficult to hold members of their own party accountable for offensive statements and extremism. I expect this will have no impact for people who consider themselves Republican. I do expect a little backlash among independent voters, but I don't know if it will be a difference maker. Honestly, Biden should just make a production of The Handmaid's Tale with the entire Republican Party in the cast as the bad guys, and it would be astonishingly high-quality TV. The absolute shit show that resulted in his election will probably matter more than the man's actual politics. 3 weeks of complete distinction and infighting. Because the previous speaker dared to not sit down the government. That's much more memorable than the eventual speaker being a fundy. Having said that, it doesn't matter a lot. 2024 is going to have Trump on the ballot. And any election with Trump on the ballot and a lot without him are functionally a referendum on Trump. Everything else is secondary. I certainly hope so. He's the embodiment of Christian hatred and also the architect of not merely participant in Trump efforts to have votes invalidated. That's all I need to see him and his party as a threat to democracy and basic human rights. I think it's possible that his inability to keep the government running and the bills paid will hurt the GOP. Absolutely. Honestly, at this point, I think most people know who they're going to vote for, even if they don't vote. Most modern Americans are cultured enough to, have friends and acquaintances that are gay. They are tired of hearing of circa Jon Stewart Daily Show Republican talking points that Rome fell due to gay sex and just dumb BS like that. In a sane world, the Trumps, Mike Johnsons, MTGs, Cummers, Jordans, Boeberts, and gay of the world would make their party toxic to everyone. But I think we've seen we live in a nowhere near sane world. I'm going with Kinzinger in saying that I'll vote for democracy over authoritarianism, theocracy. There are things that are more important than party affiliation. His odd personal beliefs that seem to cloud his logic, along with his fantastical thinking and his religious dogma, will most assuredly get in the way of his running a successful and beneficial House of Representatives. Johnson, on his very first contentious bill, has leaned towards making legislation he knows will not pass in either the Senate or the executive branch. I think his political bias and bigotry will most assuredly highlight the continuing ineptitude of the Republican Party and its governing skills. It's a perfect layup for Dems to take back the House in 2024. Thanks, Mike. Only 61% of your population believe in evolution? Considering the power the US still has in the world, that actually sounds pretty scary to me. He already is. The bill he brought to the floor of the House today is contingent on IRS cuts to keep the wealthy free from paying taxes.